Hey guys, if you haven't heard yet, there's been some major developments happening in Washington, D.C. right now regarding the full disclosure movement about extraterrestrial life and technology that a small and highly secret faction of our government is in possession of. One former Navy Rear Admiral, Dr. Tim Gallaudet, said that the planet has been visited by entities he described as non-human intelligence. Here he is testifying about the details regarding the technicalities and protocols that operators within the special access programs use to keep these UAP and UFO incidents on US Navy warships secret. This took place at the recent UAP disclosure briefing in front of sitting congressional members and cameras in the US Capitol just a couple weeks ago.
Consider the extraordinary report I received this weekend when a former US Navy SH-60 Seahawk helicopter crew chief who was embarked on the carrier USS Dwight D. Eisenhower in 2021 described to me his recording on forward-looking infrared video of a metallic sphere at an altitude a few hundred feet above the ship traveling along a linear trajectory horizontal to the sea surface before it accelerated into the horizon at an incredible speed, disappearing completely. Upon landing, he discussed this with some of the pilots and the other air crew before transferring the FLIR footage to the carrier's intelligence officer. Moreover, this was not an isolated event, for the Eisenhower Strike Group during that deployment saw many instances of UAP, primarily F-18s, frequently encountering them at high altitude. And this topic was widely discussed by the Air Wing during the entire deployment. And later, fellow aircrew members of this crew chief from another squadron deployed on board the USS Gerald R. Ford and shared similar experiences. The crew chief also informed me that the secret laptops in their ready room provided access to a shared drive where numerous UAP sightings on FLIR were archived. They stored these videos on a folder named Range Fowlers. You'd like that, Ryan. And his commanding officer and safety officer were aware of these incidents, but there was an unspoken understanding not to discuss them openly in the ready room. I've spoken to other sailors still on active duty, and their sightings of UAP have become so numerous that they are desensitized to the phenomena. My point being that the Navy possesses a trove of video evidence and data regarding UAP, and I see no reason why FLIR footage of UAP in Navy training ranges could not be declassified and shared with the scientific community.
Gallaudet spent his career serving his country, starting in the US Navy, where he worked in areas like aircraft carrier combat operations, as well as assisting US Navy SEAL teams during counter-terrorism operations. Which is very interesting because if you're new here, I'm actually making and developing and producing a feature-length action sci-fi movie about a US Navy SEAL mission that goes awry after encountering extraterrestrials deep underwater. We're using a real practical set of a high-tech submersible that was built for and used by Arnold Schwarzenegger that I was able to acquire. The underwater exterior shots outside of the submersible are being done in Unreal Engine using the latest technology from NVIDIA hardware and Unreal Engine real-time rendering technology. The story is about a US Navy SEAL team pilot operating in a cutting-edge, brand new, dry combat submersible. She must complete a critical mission deep underwater only to realize that they're not alone down there. If you're interested in following along and knowing more about this movie that I'm producing and directing on this channel, hit that like and subscribe button for more. Alright, so now back to the aliens. Here's another example of retired Navy Admiral Tim Gallaudet's testimony at a congressional hearing that took place in the fall of 2024. In this hearing, he describes another tactic that the operators of special access programs use to ensure secrecy aboard US Navy strike groups from releasing any information on any UAP incidents. Check it out.
Confirmation that UAPs are real came to me in January of 2015 when I was serving as the commander of the Navy Meteorology and Oceanography Command. At the time, my personnel were participating in a pre-deployment naval exercise off the U.S. East Coast. It included the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group, and this exercise was overseen by the United States Fleet Forces Command, led by a 4-star admiral who at the time was also my superior officer. During this exercise, I received an email on Navy's secure network from the operations officer of U.S. Fleet Forces Command. The email was addressed to all the subordinate commanders, and the subject line read in all capital letters, "Urgent Safety of Flight Issue." The text of the email was brief but alarming, with words to the effect, "If any of you know what these are, tell me ASAP. We are having multiple near mid-air collisions, and if we do not resolve this soon, we are going to have to shut down the exercise." Attached to the email is what is now known as the Go Fast video, captured on the forward-looking infrared sensor of one of the Navy FA-18 aircraft participating in the exercise. The now declassified video showed an unidentified object exhibiting flight and structural characteristics unlike anything in our arsenal. The implication of the email was clear. The author was asking whether any of the recipients were aware of classified technology demonstrations that could explain these objects. Because the DoD policy is to rigorously deconflict such demonstrations with live exercises, I was confident this was not the case. The very next day, that email disappeared from my account and those of the other recipients without explanation. This lack of follow-up was very concerning to me. As the Navy's chief meteorologist at the time, I was responsible for reducing safety of flight risks. Instead, pilots were left to mitigate these threats on their own without guidance or support. I concluded that the UAP information must have been classified within a special access program managed by an intelligence agency. That is a compartmented program that even senior officials, including myself, were not read into. Last year's UAP hearing before this oversight committee confirmed that UAP-related information is being withheld from senior officials and members of Congress.
This is just the tip of the iceberg about some of the stories that take place on US Navy warships regarding UAP. Some of these accounts, they're saying that sometimes each warship is being swarmed by hundreds of UFOs simultaneously, which means all at the same time. That's mind-boggling. Like, we've never even heard of anything like that. Whether it was the World War I, the Cold War, there's never been a moment like that in history. And they're saying that this happens frequently. And they're not allowed to talk about it because of all these protocols that take place. And now all these high-ranking officials are coming out in front of Congress members and cameras and talking about it. What a time to be alive, guys. What do you guys think? Do you think it's time for the US Congress to act and write new laws forcing these special access programs to release information on what they know about extraterrestrial intelligence, extraterrestrial technology, and these so-called crash retrieval programs that many officials are talking about that have existed for decades now? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in knowing more about my movie that we're producing regarding the US Navy SEALs, hit that like and subscribe button. And until next time, peace.